This guide has been inspected and improved by Luminous.
Hey guys, this is SUNSfan and welcome to the official Dota Cinema Guide to Crystal Maiden. If you aren't familiar with this hero, you may want to watch the introduction we did for her at the corresponding link. Crystal Maiden is an intelligence hero with an incredibly large rack. Fortunately for her team, this is not all that she offers. She's considered one of the best early game heroes in the game as she can slow, immobilize, as well as help her teammates globally. Skill build. There are 3 builds to Crystal Maiden, which are all dependent on what your goals are. Build number 1 is maxing Arcane Aura. In this build you'll level Crystal Nova at level 1, Frostbite at level 2, and Arcane Aura at 3, 4, 5, and 7. Players usually opt to not get their ultimate until levels 10 and 11, so your second skill to max would depend on if there's a very mobile hero on the opposing team. If you need to hold a specific hero down, then max Frostbite. But since we're speaking on a more general basis, we choose to max Nova next and Frostbite last. Builds number 2 and 3 are quite similar in the fact that they're both offensive in nature. Build 2 involves maxing Nova first, Frostbite second, and your Aura last. This does usually include getting 1 level of your Aura at 4 though. Build 3 is almost identical, except you'll max Frostbite first and Nova second, with of course a level of your Aura at 4 if needed. As discussed earlier, if you're going against a very mobile hero such as Quap or Anti-Mage, this will help you hold them down for a longer period of time. But keep in mind that it won't prevent heroes like Sand King or Puck from using their mobility spells. But of course they still will be stuck at their point of destination. Item build. Starting items for Crystal Maiden are strikingly similar to other supports. Getting either the wards or courier are absolutely mandatory. Other than that, get consumables of both the health and mana variety. In the early game, the main item you should be working towards are wards and regular boots. If you have an excess of money, then you can focus on other things. For upgraded boots, treads are pretty good for survivability, but tranquil boots are really good because it'll give you a heal and are very cheap to make. Plus, you can eventually make a mech with the Ring of Regen. In the mid game, guess what? Wards are still needed. If you haven't caught on yet, Crystal Maiden is what we would call a ward bitch. Of course, we say this in the most flattering of ways. But if for whatever inexplicable reason have more gold than you know what to do with, then finishing a mech or force staff would be really helpful for your team. If you don't have too much money and are getting ripped apart, then don't be afraid to get a couple bracers, one of which you could potentially turn into a drum. For late game luxury items, a BKB and Blink would be great in order to get off a successful ultimate. But I'm sorry to say that wards are still more important. Gameplay. Remember, whether you're a designated puller in a tri-lane or the main harasser in a duel, your level 1 Frostbite and Nova are really powerful. Typically, if you have both at your disposal, you'll want to start out with a Nova in order to slow multiple enemies. Try and wait for the slow to wear off before using your Frostbite, but obviously this isn't always possible, but if you do have the opportunity to lay your spells, you'll be better off. Because of this early power, CM is a good ganker in the very early stages of the game. The best thing about playing her, although this isn't always a godsend, is that your foes may not call you missing all the time because 1, you're warding so often, and 2, you're really not looked at as a threat. If you happen to be maxing Arcane Aura, then utilize your spell, woman. If you're going with that first skill build, then you're going to have only level 1 Frostbite and Nova for quite a while, so take advantage of it early. Also, your ultimate, Freezing Field, is completely underrated. It deals a lot of damage, but obviously the big drawback is that it's channeling, which means you're most likely putting yourself in a precarious situation. In team fights, you're going to want to try and use your Nova on several heroes, but the real mistake a lot of players make is with Frostbite. Use it on heroes that rely more on right-clicking, since it won't stop casters from casting their all-important spells. But of course it will stop channeling spells thanks to its mini-stun. So if you get the chance to use it on a Sand King while they're casting Epicenter, then do it. And if you have an opportunity to get off a worthwhile ultimate, then obviously try and get it off. But your main objective is to keep your allies alive, whether it be with items or just with your spells in order to develop some potential kiting situations. Friends and foes. Heroes that would love to motorboat Crystal Maiden would include heroes that could take advantage of her Arcane Aura the most, or even those that are desperate for her slows and immobilize. Some examples of the benefit of the mana regen would include heroes like Tiny and Death Prophet. For the benefit of her setting up kills, heroes like Ursa and Juggernaut really appreciate the slows and immobilize. Special mention does have to go to Omni Knight, who can provide her the opportunity to cast a worthwhile Freezing Field thanks to his Repel. But unfortunately for Maiden, her list of foes is quite large, since she's a very squishy hero that probably won't get a ton of farm throughout a typical game. Because of this, most casters will destroy her, since she really can't do anything about it. Examples of this would include Lion, Zeus, and of course her sister, Lena. A big shout out goes to the Dota 2 Reddit community who welcomed me with open arms. I spent over 6 hours answering questions and had a lot of fun doing so. You can find this awesome community at reddit.com/r/Dota2. Thanks for watching, guys, and please remember to subscribe to our YouTube. Also, a big thanks to FlawlezZ and Luminous who helped create this guide. You can check them out at their YouTube channels, which are